Hey, you guys, quiz was due last night, and yesterday in class, somebody had asked me to go over it, and I couldn't because we had a lot of people who hadn't taken it yet. Now everybody's taken it, so it's not a problem, and I said I would post a video that goes over that chapters 2, 6, and 8 quiz. So here we are. Question 1, which level of government is primarily responsible for regulating insurance companies? That's state government. Pretty straightforward. That was kind of the takeaway from chapter 8 that I wanted people to get. So state government was what we were looking for there. Question number 2, who decides the rates that will be paid by high risk, medium risk, and low risk? Careful here. Rates are decided by the actuary. The underwriter decides who is high risk, medium risk, low risk, but the rates are calculated by the actuary. So I could see there if some people had thought it should be underwriter, but actuary is what we're looking for there because it's the rates. We got somebody who has smoked for a long time and has lied and said doesn't use tobacco. So what does that lead to? That leads to adverse selection, right? Because you've got a person trying to get insurance at standard rates when they clearly should be rated up, and they said something on there that wasn't true. It's not moral hazard. Moral hazard is when you deliberately cause a loss in the hopes that you profit. Well, that's not what's going on here. He's not ending his life. That would be the moral hazard piece of it, which generally doesn't happen in life insurance. So this is something that leads to adverse selection, but not moral hazard. That's what we're looking for there. Number 4, who pays for insurance fraud? Insurance customers do. Insurance consumers. That's who pays for that. Insurance companies, they don't pay it. They just pass that cost along. And that was something that I wanted to hit pretty strongly. That's why I put it in the quiz here again. You pay for this. When other people defraud their insurance companies, it's all of us that pay for that. That we're the ones who bear the cost. The cost of insurance fraud is ultimately borne by the consumer, insurance consumers. Good. Just a straight up true false. It's normal for property liability insurance companies to pay out more money in claims and expenses than they receive in premiums. That's true. We talked about the combined ratio and how that's usually, remember, that's defined the losses and all expenses over premiums. So we're comparing losses and all expenses to premiums, and it's usually greater than 1, meaning that losses and expenses are usually greater than the premiums they bring in. And that was kind of a key thing that we talked about there about why investments are so important. So I wanted to make sure that we hit that. So that one's true. Number 6, who can represent multiple insurance companies? That's an independent agent. Exclusive agent can only represent a single insurance company. Pretty straightforward there. This one's fun. If I were comparing 2 insurance companies and they made exactly the same money from investments, the company with the lower combined ratio does better, because investments aren't part of loss ratio or combined ratio. So that's not the difference. The question is it better to have a higher ratio or a lower ratio? And because it's defined as expenses over premiums, lower is better. So the company with the lower combined ratio is going to be the better performer. Combined because we need the expenses. Loss ratio just tells us about losses. If your overhead expenses are higher, you may or may not be the best performer. But if you've got the lower combined ratio and you've got exactly the same investment performance, that would be a better performance. Number 8, insurance companies can be seized or taken over by the state if they're at risk of going bankrupt, unlike other companies. Yeah, that's true. That's extremely unusual. There aren't many operations that can actually be seized by the state if they don't like the way you're running things. Sometimes they can impose fines, but actually taking over and liquidating, that's an extreme remedy that no other industry is really subject to in the same way that insurance companies are. So this one's true. Number 9, law of large numbers means that insurance companies are better off insuring fewer exposures rather than more exposures. That's false. The law of large numbers says if you want your actual results to be close to what you expect, the best way to bring that about is to have more exposures. Because as the number of exposures increases, the more likely it is that your actual results will approach what you expected. That's the whole point. So insurance companies are better off by writing more policies, not fewer policies. Fewer policies creates variation. That's what the insurance company doesn't want. They know they're going to have losses. That's not the problem. They just need those losses not to be greater than what they expect. And one way to protect themselves is to write more exposures. Kind of a key idea there from chapter 2. Last question coming up here. When do we use insurance? We use insurance when frequency is low and severity is high. That's what we want. So low frequency, high severity. That's what we're looking for on that one. Hope that's a little helpful. If you have any questions, please send me an email. I'll do my best to help you out. But here's the video that explains the answers to those quizzes, and hopefully that helps you get a little bit more prepared for the exam. Thanks a lot, you guys.